come to me.
Focus Features invites you to succumb to the darkness.
Nosferatu.
From director Robert Eggers comes a masterpiece of horror.
He is coming. This creature is a force more powerful than evil. It is death itself.
Nosferatu. Rated R. Under 17 nanometer without parent. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Special engagements in Dolby and IMAX.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Hey y'all, welcome to At the Table Podcast, a virtual table where we talk about all things growth, empowerment, and purpose. My name is Fikayo, and thank you so much for having me in your ears. In this episode today, I have a treat for you. We welcome Babatunde Ogundipe, who is a data science expert, tech educator, and the founder of The Key, which is an innovative platform helping individuals of all backgrounds break into tech. With experiences at companies like IBM, Deloitte, and now Blue Omega, David is on a mission to close the tech gap and empower new talent in the data science field. In this episode, not only does David and I talk extensively about tech and also his project, The Key, but we also speak about faith. We also have big conversations about AI. This episode sounds like a conversation between friends, and you definitely do not want to miss it. Please also be sure to rate and subscribe and follow and comment on these podcast episodes as well. They really help us continue to bring great guests on here. And well, without further ado, are you ready? Welcome to At the Table Podcast. Welcome to At the Table Podcast. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking. David, thank you so much for coming on At the Table. It's really great to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So the very first question I like to ask my guest is, well, who are you? I think it's very interesting how people introduce themselves, and it gives us a better look and a deeper insight on who they perceive themselves to be. So David, who are you?
That is a good question. Funny enough, last week I spent time trying to answer this question in the most precise but still concise manner. So I am a Christian man. That is my number one identity, a follower of Jesus. Outside of that, there really is no outside of that, but underscoring that, I guess not, I don't even know how to say underscoring, but like below all of that, I am a Black man who loves serving people, loves serving others, loves helping any way I can. That throughout my life has manifested in different ways, from being a barber to being a DJ to now working on The Key, where I'm helping people learn tech skills, to just me being helpful to my family, man. So I'm a servant. That's the best way to define it.
Oh, that sounds so great. It's so interesting you say that you're a servant. And as you go into that, could you explain what The Key is while we're here?
Yes, The Key is an education technology platform that wants to help job transitioners, specifically African American job transitioners, get into the tech field. So the reason why I believe this is necessary is because there are many barriers to breaking into tech in general, even if you are actually already in a tech adjacent field. So for those who are completely separated from technology, I want to create a better pipeline to tech roles, especially because a lot of the skills that we do in other industries do translate well, but there's so many barriers that are unnecessary that cause people to think it's not possible unless they have a tech degree.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And how do you do that exactly?
I do that by teaching skills through courses. So I
Hmm.
specialize in cohort-based courses, meaning courses where it's a live instructor and you're with people in your course. But I've also have done one-on-one courses where it's just me and a student. And yeah, through hearing them process Python, hearing them process whatever it is they're learning, and being a coach essentially to guide them through the process of learning, I've seen people go from literally knowing nothing about programming at all to being able to write code that if you would have asked them 10 weeks prior to taking my course, it would have been
Hmm.
like, who the heck wrote that? So it's great to see that progress. But yeah, I do it by watching them, teaching them, and guiding them through coding, Python specifically.
That is so great. I'm not sure if we've spoken about this, but my background, my undergrad was actually in IT. So
Okay.
I went through a few coding classes and I know how hard it was to sit in a class of like 30 people
Hmm.
and be trying to learn Python because it's so intricate, right? You cannot
Yeah.
skip a beat. You cannot put a parentheses in the wrong place. Like it's so individual. So I just am imagining how much value your students are getting from you from doing like this cohort of probably I think the last time I was in one and I would think it was like
Yes.
10 people.
Yes, yes, very
Mhm.
small. That's the aim. Very small so that everyone has that individual education. When I was in undergrad, I started out as a computer science major, and I'll probably get into this at some point, probably, but I started out as a computer science, well, technically computer engineering major.
Mhm.
And, I remember I walked into my freshman computer science class. Huge. It was an auditorium. I'm like, wait, I thought that I'd be with like 20, 20 people with one teacher, but it was like maybe 150 of us in the auditorium.
Mhm.
And
That's
and the
insane.
teacher just started going and just going and going. I had people in that class that had years of experience, but man, I had never coded until that day.
Yeah,
People are coming in there 10 years old coding. So I was already at a disadvantage, but yeah, really
that's
needed that individual
insane.
attention.
And it really is like a new way of thinking. Because I mean, they are languages. It's a new way of processing and like the logic behind it as well. I couldn't imagine sitting in a class trying to learn Python with that many people.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness, this is not no. It's like you said, it's literally a language. So,
Mhm.
and you don't even like, it's not even a like. Okay, if you're learning Spanish, you know, you're used. I mean, red, rojo. You know, like you're used
Mhm.
to hearing it. Like even if
Mhm.
it's like Dora or something, like a little bit because you grew up either around people that speak Spanish or you see it on TV. But
Yeah.
where do you get exposure to programming if you're not a programmer?
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
completely different. So it's like, what are you saying right now? What does this mean? So yeah, it was a very, very, very big shock.
Wow. I bet. You mentioned that you first did your undergrad in computer science. So like what even got you into tech? What sparked your interest in that world?
Yeah. So growing up, I was the child that would reset the computer and be seen as a prodigy.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
how it started. My family would be like, wow, every time I did anything remotely related to computers, they're like, okay, you're gonna do computer stuff. That's what my mom calls it. She said computer stuff. And I'm like, yeah, 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 that's what I'll do. My mom's Nigerian. Well, we're Nigerian, so yeah, that's how she says it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, yeah, yeah, okay, cool. I'm gonna do computer related stuff. So computer engineering just like it just sounded like something that I should do. I had
Mhm.
no understanding as to what it was per se, but I realized it was something related to, I was like, maybe it's hardware. And then computer science is like software, but like, I don't know exactly what that means. But I came in to college and I wanted to do computer engineering. But the reason why I wanted to do computer engineering, like I mentioned, was because I'm just like, hey, computers, like, cool. I graduated from a high school program where you got your associate's degree in high school. So
Mm.
was, so my goal was to graduate college in 2 years. And I started out as a computer engineering major or wanted to do, okay. So really what happened was you have to like get into a major at Maryland. You can't just apply and
To the
directly be
school.
assigned a major
Oh.
unless you're like really, 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 really smart, have really good grades. So my
Wow.
grades weren't like ridiculously good for certain majors, not all majors, right? They call it a limited enrollment program, engineering
Mm-hmm.
specifically. So at the time, computer science was not a limited enrollment program. So I was able to go straight into computer science while taking some courses in order to get into computer engineering. But I was literally in college taking computer science courses while also looking to take classes that would prepare me for engineering. I remember I was in a chemistry class. It was chemistry for engineers. Chem 135 was the name. I can't forget it. It was the second class of that. Man, okay, let me tell you one thing. I took chemistry in high school and we learned this concept you might remember stoichiometry in like the last quarter of high school. Why were we learning that on the first day of class in college? I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know chemistry." She went through my entire 10th grade chemistry in one day, and I said, "Wow, nah, this ain't for me." So that I dropped that joint like a hot potato, and I said, "All right, well, comp sci it is, no engineering, just comp sci." So then, as I was taking the courses for comp sci, I was studying and studying and studying, and I was like, "Bro, like I'm literally spending hours on these classes. I'm also taking calculus, spending hours on calculus.
Yeah.
Everything was just so tedious. I was like, bro, I cannot be grinding like this just to get a C. Like, I am not an average student. That's really what I was. I'm not an average student. God, you're not created me to be doing this. And at the time, too, just became a Christian. So I stopped cheating on tests and all that stuff. So I started taking my tests in an honest format and I was failing because I never learned how to study.
Mm.
So I was like, Jesus, I need help. So I ended up being like, okay, do I really want to do this like computer science thing? Like, do I really want this? Like, or what? But also, what I would have still done it. But what really drove me to say, is there another major? Was the fact that because I wanted to graduate in 2 years and computer science, the way it's set up, you have to take each class in succession. I would have had to still been there for 4 years, for at least 3 years, and just double
Mm-hmm.
majored in something else because I couldn't just like stack up a bunch of courses during the same
Yeah.
semester. So I was like, what major can I do that with? And I saw that the business school had information systems, and I was like, ooh, okay, still computer related. All right, let me
Now,
go
could
into
you
this.
explain
hmm
like how computer systems is different from data science or computer engineering?
Let me tell you right now, it's a bunch of names. It's just a bunch of names to get people to sign up and pay more money. Because let me tell you something about engineering and business. Man, I feel like I'm just spilling everything right now. Let me tell you something. At University of Maryland College Park, the computer information systems major is part of the business school. The business school and the
Mm-hmm.
engineering school at the time, you had to pay differential tuition, meaning the tuition cost more money if you were those majors.
Oh.
So I ended up switching to business school. Yes, it was a whole process, but I ended up getting to business school and computer information systems. The courses that I took there were was a course on Excel, a
Mm-hmm.
course on it was programming, but it was programming in Excel. We're using VBA, which is yeah, it's not the most fun language, but it was programming there. I learned like SQL. I
Mm-hmm.
learned some not JavaScript, but I learned PHP, HTML, CSS,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Whereas in computer science, you're learning Java, of course, you're learning Ruby and languages like that, but you're also doing like discrete structures, learning, taking discrete
Yeah.
math,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff
I
like
took
that.
discrete
So
math.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was interesting.
linear algebra, all that. Like
Mm-hmm.
so, like it's a bit more technical on the math side as well, computer science.
Mm-hmm.
The information systems is more like I think tech, but applied to the business world is really how I would say it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what I ended up pivoting to. But I realized that at the end of the day, I'm trying to get a job. So I'm trying to get a
Mm-hmm.
job. I'm just trying to see what I need to learn to get a job. I don't really care what my major is. So that's really what drove me. And I was able to finish in 2.5 years at UMD and graduate. But during that whole time, I was just learning all the skills needed for whatever job I was looking for at the time, which at the time, all I wanted was something in tech. Didn't necessarily know what exactly I wanted, but that's a bit of the story there.
That sounds incredible, and that was so much fun. And you did very well because you've gotten yourself in major companies like IBM, EY, and Deloitte. What did
Yes.
you end up doing there?
Yes. So various roles at the different places, but as it pertains to EY, that was my first job out of college. Man, that itself is a testimony because I was the guy that didn't have my first year. I didn't have an internship. So I was like, man, like, what am I going to do? So
And
my
you were on a
second,
2-year
yeah,
program.
exactly. Right. So
Mm.
it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But what's crazy is leading up to my second summer, I got a full-time job offer before I got an internship for that summer.
Wow.
Yeah, like it was crazy. It was crazy. So basically I was I went to some event for, it was a NABA event, so National Association of Black Accountants. I went there because, business school is like, doesn't matter if you're an accountant or IT person, like it's all
I
the
was just
same.
doing that math in my head, like, eh?
Yeah, it's all the same. It's all the same stuff. Like as long as your business, like it doesn't really matter. So I
Hmm.
went to there was a talk that they had for people who wanted to work on their LinkedIn. So I went there and no one really showed up. So I got to just chill with like one of the managers at EY, and she was just telling me about positions at EY, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I already heard you guys don't have an internship." She was like, "We don't? Like, are you sure?" She was like, "We should definitely have internships." I was like, "Well, I didn't hear of any. I've been applying, and they told me they didn't have any." So she ended up reaching out to people and was able to get me an interview, not for an internship, but for a full-time job since they actually didn't have any internships. So
Hmm.
long story short, got the intern, got a job, a full-time offer starting for the next year, January. So
What a dream.
that was like April of 2019. So I had a job offer for January of 2020. So that was that. But that same week though, that was when I got an internship somewhere else. That got me into a small company called T-Rex. I really loved the internship. I was using Power BI. That was when I learned Power BI and learned how to do visualization. And that got me
Mm.
into just the world of like data. So yeah, that's my introduction there. And then obviously different jobs from there. Don't know if you want me to walk through every single job or,
No, you don't
yeah, let
have
me know.
to.
But yeah,
You
that's
don't
how I
have
started out.
to.
That's how I started out. Started out doing, um, dashboards at T-Rex, but then ended up doing IT audit at EY, which by the way, I did not like IT audit in any way. EY was a great company, but IT audit was not for me. Not for me
Could
at
you
all.
explain IT audit?
I will explain IT audit and I will explain it because I know there's some people that just think, oh, I just want to do IT. And it's like, bro, IT is as broad as saying I want to do.
Oh
Like,
my goodness. Oh
oh my
my
God.
goodness. And then it's so interesting because I did IT.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like I did some of the things like JavaScript,
Mm-hmm.
HTML, PHP, SQL, but then also we did discrete math, we did statistics. So it
Mm,
was like we got our IT program was literally the mix of IS, information
mm-hmm.
systems, and then computer engineering. And literally you could go into anything, whether the tech world or the business world, but people don't realize
They
that.
don't realize that.
And then it's
Yeah.
different from like technical, like whether you'll code or be a software engineer or you'll do cloud
Mm-hmm.
computing or you'll do like IT support. Like, whoa. But yes, please go, keep going.
Yes, exactly. It's so broad. Like, yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah. So, where were we even going? I said
IT audit.
IT audit. Yes, IT audit. So, what IT audit is essentially the verification of a information technology system and validating that it is able to do what the compliance team says it should do. And let me give an example because it's better with an example. So here we go. You have a computer that you log into. The way
Mhm.
you log into that computer, let's say it's by a username and a password.
Mhm.
You have a manual that basically says, hey, this app, I don't want people to be able to get into this computer without typing in a proper username and password. If they try a wrong password 3 times, lock them out, right?
Mhm.
That is your control. You say that because you want to avoid the risk of someone hacking into your computer, right?
Yeah.
That's the risk. The control is after 3 attempts of a wrong password, lock them out. So
Mhm.
basically, it's a bunch of risks and controls. You list all this stuff out in a document. As an auditor, I have to make sure that all those controls that were set are actually being implemented.
Oh.
So I need to make sure you're doing that because let's say that computer holds government data. I need to make
Right.
sure not anyone can just break into that government data, right? So
Right.
these controls that are set they're standards set by the National Information System Technology Board. I think it's NIST. I think that's how they say it. I think it's called. But it's set by like the higher ups, and you essentially have to take what they set and like make your own controls for your own company. And then as an auditor, I make sure that you're following the standards that were set by NIST and that you're actually living up to what you're saying. And I test out if you're doing it. So I would try to go into your computer and put in a wrong password 3 times and see if it locks me out. If it does, great. You just pass that control. If it doesn't, then I ding you and I say, hey, this is wrong. Like you got to fix it. And we go from there. So the reason why
Hmm.
I didn't like IT audit specifically is because the whole process I just told you about, I have to write this. Like I have to type up what I did. So this is literally how it is. Per inspection of Addie's laptop, I noticed that when she logs in 3 times with a bad password, it locks her out. This passes control ABC, whatever. All right. Then I have to put a screenshot of me doing it, of me like actually like trying to log you in and then put a screenshot of it locking you out and put it in a document. So it was a
Oh.
that was my job for several different controls. I just talked to you about logging to an account, but there's several hundreds of controls that I had to do. I don't like writing as much. It's funny now. I like writing a little bit better now, but I did not. I no. IT audit was not for me. So
And I bet it was
yeah.
monotonous.
Okay. For me, yes, but I see. I don't want to get in trouble with IT auditors. If y'all like it, y'all like it, but it ain't for me.
Yeah.
It ain't for
Yeah.
me. It is not for
Yeah.
me.
For each
So
their own.
yeah, to each their own, man. But it ain't for me. So man, there were days where I was just in my room, like, gosh, I gotta get out of here, Lord. Like I was crying. I was like, bro, what is this? Like, oh my gosh. The thing is, from day one, the first, not even day one, day zero, the orientation. And that's when I knew that I wasn't gonna like it. Once I figured out what it actually was, I was applying for jobs during orientation. Not even lying. I was applying for jobs during the orientation. They flew us out to Atlanta. I was applying for jobs in Atlanta on my computer, sending out messages. And that's because I asked a question. I said, hey, wait, so IT audit is like just reviewing like documents and stuff like that. I'm not actually doing the technical work. They were like, no, you're not. I was like, oh my God. So then I remember I was in an elevator going back to my room because,
Yeah.
we're in Atlanta, right? So then people were on the elevator with me and they were like, oh wow, I thought I didn't know IT audit was that either. Oh my gosh. So they were shocked too. So I was like, yo, I gotta do something about this. Like, I can't be like this. So I started applying. I applied to IBM, and
Uh-huh.
that's how I eventually had an interview at IBM. But I didn't get the job then because it was COVID. That was 2020, so it was COVID.
Mm.
So they had a hiring freeze. So I had to reapply for IBM in like August, and I ended up getting an offer, which would start the next May. But during that time at EY, I didn't just suffer. I wasn't gonna just sit around and suffer. I made sure that I talked to my senior manager, and he was so helpful. He was like, "Oh, you don't want to do this? Okay, bet. How about you switch over to this new project that does it wasn't very technical like that, but it was much more technical than what I was doing. So I was able to
Mm-hmm.
learn this tool called Ultras through the new
Oh.
project that he put me on. And what's crazy is now I'm at my job and all I use is Ultras and Python. I got this job
Wow.
because of that initial project at EY where I used Ultras, just because it was on my resume. So
Wow.
crazy how everything works out, man. But yeah, advocate for yourself. If you don't like your role, talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. Yeah, that's all I'll say on that.
That was so good. Oh my goodness, so many lessons. And even just like see how God just turns things around to like that's just insane how intentional God is as
Literally,
well.
literally,
Wow. And
literally.
because of that as well, you can
Hmm.
even come on here and talk about the key because Deloitte does not like it when their employees have businesses.
And that's why I'm at
Oh.
Blue Omega now because,
Uh-huh.
and I love here's the thing, right? I'm not,
We love Deloitte.
we love
Love
Deloitte.
Deloitte.
We love
Love
Deloitte.
Deloitte.
We love Deloitte, right?
Love Deloitte.
We love Deloitte.
Yeah.
Now, for me personally, right? I wanted to work on my business and work at Deloitte at the same time. And I would think that my business is not in conflict with Deloitte, right? I would suspect that.
Mhm.
But turns out it was. And Deloitte was basically saying that I had to choose between the two. But once again, shout out to good senior managers. Because when you
Mm.
advocate and say, hey, I'm trying to work on my business and I'm trying to still work at Deloitte, like, is it possible? And if you do your work and you made sure that like you do what's asked of you and do it well, do it as done for the Lord like I do. Like that's my goal to do it as if I'm doing, as if God is watching me, literally,
Mhm.
like doing your work like that. You take it seriously. And when you take it seriously, good stuff comes from that. So when I
Mhm.
talked to my senior manager and explained my situation to him, he was like, okay, cool. Long story short, ended up allowing me to work for a subcontractor that is a contractor to Deloitte, so I'm still able to work.
Yeah.
I'm on my same project, doing the
Yeah.
same work. I get paid
Yeah.
more to do the same thing, exact same
Yeah.
thing. So,
And
and work
you
on my
get to
business,
continue the
and I
key.
get to work on the key.
Yeah.
So, like that is God just working itself out. When you have integrity, make sure you have integrity. Do not go
Mm.
and cut corners and do stuff under the table. Just
Yeah.
trust that God will work it out, and
Yeah.
He will. So,
And that's
yeah.
another thing I try to emphasize on this podcast to just hard work does pay off. When people can
Hmm.
trust you, when people can just like vouch for you, when people can put their neck
Yeah.
on the line and say, yeah, this person is good for it. Like it
Hmm.
does pay off. That's such a great story. Wow. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know. So like I'm interested in your perspective on today's tech industry. What
Mhm.
key skills or technologies do you think are essential for succeeding in today's tech industry?
In today's tech industry, like
Mhm.
there's so many tools available that I can't even say you have to learn this tool, you have to learn that tool because there are even non-technical tech roles, right? So
Yeah.
I can't even say you have to learn this, have to learn that. What I can say confidently though is you need to learn how to do things faster and be more efficient.
Mm,
So how that pertains to a project manager, for example, you may need to know how to go through Jira tickets and figure out what tickets have been here for too long versus whether or not, these tickets are new. Like you need to be able to analyze the velocity of your different sprints, for example, right? And figure out how to do that in a
mhm.
faster manner. When it comes to being a data engineer, you need to figure out how to process data quicker. Maybe the scripts that you have right now, they work fine, but they're too slow. How can you improve them?
Yeah.
There are ways in which as a data visualization person, like you need to know how to do that more efficient. Maybe right now your data is visualized in Power BI and the visuals are very, very slow. Is there a better way? Is there something else you can do, right? You need to figure out how to be more efficient. And that's because all AI is doing is just increasing efficiency. So
Yep.
if AI is increasing efficiency, if you want to maintain your job, you need to know how to increase efficiency in other areas too. Or you need to know
Yeah.
how to use AI to increase efficiency in other areas. Because AI is just a tool. It's not your job. It's a tool. So you need to know how to be efficient and make things better. I believe that if you have that skill of just knowing how to make things better, and it is a
Mhm.
skill. And I would say
Mhm.
one of the ways to practice that skill is to look at anything. Just look at anything and say, this looks cool and this is good, but how can it be perfect? You may
Mhm.
never reach perfection, but if you keep trying to make something more perfect, you will make it better. So I always look
Yeah.
at every process and I'm like, this works fine, but could it be better?
Mhm.
Could it be better? The best innovation comes from people that dare to ask that question. This is cool, like this is working, but can it be better?
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
right there is the most important skill. Now, of course, there's Python, there's knowing how to use ChatGPT, knowing how to use OpenAI's API and maybe Gemini's API and different APIs like that. That's useful. AWS, all these things are useful. But in terms of what you need to like, the framework that should be in your mind is how can I make a process faster or more efficient? Not even just a process that involves tools, but even a process that involves people. How can I
Yeah.
make sure that not everyone needs to know? Like, for example, we have a process at my job that everyone needs to touch and everyone needs to approve before it gets passed. And the question is, why is that the case? If some of these people that are approving these processes don't even know or are so far removed from the request. So why don't
Mm.
we have another process where if it's something that is not a big deal, we have a different change process where we involve less people before something gets approved. Things like
Yeah.
that only happen when we dare to ask and we dare
Yeah.
to say this isn't working, or this works but it could be better, or this
Mhm.
works but it could be better because it excludes a large population, which is how I feel about college, by the way. But anyway, that's a different story. I'm not guessing. But anyway, yes, that would be what I would say. You got to learn how to make things better. Yeah.
That is such a perfect segue into AI. I was going to ask you, like, how do you see AI disrupting or changing the tech industry? Or because you said it's we such an interesting intersection between business and tech. How do you see AI changing that world?
Yeah, I believe AI is a tool. It's
Hmm.
just a tool. AI is not our savior. AI is not doing anything that human beings could not do given enough time. All AI is going to do is help you do whatever it is that you already know how to do.
Yeah.
So, what I mean by that, okay, people think that what's the point of learning how to program if I could just ask ChatGPT to write code for me? Okay, and I would say, how do you know ChatGPT is writing the right code for you if you can't program?
Yeah.
Like,
Or
so,
or
uh huh,
the logic, like you have to be able to explain to ChatGPT the logic of it. And I'm not speaking like the just how do you want it to be done, but like you need to understand if else statements so that you
exactly,
could properly prompt this code. And I see that that technical background I have, even though as I'm prompting the AI, it really, really helps explain to the AI how to break it down because I understand how it's going to break down my request.
exactly. Now, this is what
Yeah.
I'm about to say is not even technical, like it's not even a coding thing, but I asked ChatGPT. I said ChatGPT because I like fitness, right? I like to eat healthy. I'm on a journey right now,
Hmm.
trying to get right. But
Hmm.
I asked ChatGPT. I said, ChatGPT, is there a good substitute for white flour that's low calorie? It said, ChatGPT said yes. You should try using cauliflower crust instead of using flour crust because cauliflower crust has 160 calories and white flour crust has 100 calories. I was like, wait, I said I wanted low calorie. It says, yes, cauliflower crust has 160 calories and white flour crust has 100 calories. I was like, wait, I said I wanted low calorie, so why are you suggesting cauliflower crust has more calories? It said, oh, I'm so sorry. This is what I meant. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, I cannot trust
Mm-hmm.
you. I
Mm-hmm.
literally can't
Mm-hmm.
trust you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so if it makes that mistake with something as simple as that, then why would the code be accurate off the first go? If you don't even know how to
Yeah.
program and
Yeah.
you're telling it what to do,
Yeah.
like it's gonna be, you know what I mean? It's gonna be off. So you need to know, like you mentioned, like if else statements. You need to understand, hey, does this syntax actually make sense? Did ChatGPT understand my question enough? If this thing doesn't work, how will I even test it out if it works or not? All of these things
Ooh.
you need to understand. And that comes from having knowledge of programming. So you still need to learn, you still need to grow, you still need to be able to explain things. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say ChatGPT and all these other tools now, they help people that already know how to do it and are just tired of
Mm-hmm.
writing boilerplate code for stuff, right? Helps you
Mm-hmm.
get rid of all that basic code you'd write. You just say, "Hey, ChatGPT, do this for me." Sounds like writing anything. Like
Yeah.
that's what it's great for. So I believe AI is gonna take over a lot of. It's gonna save a lot of people's time. It's already saving me time. So
Yeah.
it's saving time. But at the end of the day, if you are trying to get lazy and think that you can just rely on ChatGPT to do everything, you are greatly mistaken, because even the calculator that has so much functionality with mathematics, if you don't know how to use a calculator, you're just as hopeless as if you never had a calculator in the first place. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter about the tool. What matters is you know how to use the tool.
Yeah. And I think another really important point that I try to make with young people, especially that I know are pursuing IT, is
Mhm.
like, do the work in class. No one's going to have patience for you outside. And another thing is, all these big companies, once they give you that computer, there is no AI. They block ChatGPT. So you're going to need to, if you tell them that you know how to do Python and you're working on their company computer that you have to sign into, you
Mhm.
need to be able to do Python. You
Exactly.
won't be able to reach ChatGPT. It's not going to work. The link is not going to work.
Exactly.
So you're
Exactly.
going to be tough out
Exactly.
of luck. So do
Deloitte
the work.
actually, yeah, Deloitte
Mm-hmm.
actually, they had an they had an internal version that we had to use, and they blocked ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
But they had an internal version, and it actually, at the time I was at Deloitte, you couldn't even ask it for code anymore. It doesn't let you like, because you used to be able to just like ask it for like a bunch of code, but now
Yeah.
it's been prompted to like not give you the code. So, you gotta learn, you gotta know how to do stuff. At my
Mm-hmm.
project though, they have another internal tool that's specific to my client, but this internal tool that they have is still in the very, very early stages. So it only works in a specific coding environment.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to see if we can make it an API so that we can use it in different environments. But because of that privacy that you alluded to, you're not really able to do much on the job, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. So you
Yeah.
gotta know how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta know how to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. And I think there's also an advantage in the way it kind of trains your brain because your brain starts working as a computer as well. I don't work in
Hmm.
tech anymore, but like I see the impact of it so much, even in how I process information. It's like this, that. Like it literally helps me. Knowing how to code helps me organize my thoughts and
Yeah,
organize my work as well. So like these implicit skills are so important. And it's pretty cool to see how they transition over.
exactly. Yeah, I was literally reading my Bible, which is the weirdest thing, right? I was reading my Bible and I was looking at a scripture. It was Second Corinthians 7:14, Second
Mhm.
Chronicles 7:14, and basically it was like, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and repent and turn from the wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and heal their land. And I was like, ooh, if my people, then I would. And I was like,
Mhm.
ooh, and I was over
Mhm.
here writing it out, and it was pretty cool to see how, like, yeah, the conditionals are everywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just helpful. And I mean, this is even in Excel too. Excel has, conditional statements and things like that too. So people are able to easily transition to tech if they want to. They don't know that they're already so close to it, but they think they're far away. And that's what causes people. The barrier is the brain. The barrier is people's
Mhm.
mindset. It's not even, I mean, obviously tech has a bunch of barriers, but the barrier to even learning is
Ultimately,
is your
yeah.
is your brain. It's just you. You have to break that barrier. So that's really what I want to do with the key. I teach, but like I don't even like have to teach like that. I really just have to teach you how to train your mind to start
Yeah.
knowing you can do it. That's the first step.
Yeah. And it is possible.
Yeah.
So possible. That's such a great segue into my next question as well. So the key does teach Python, right?
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing like resume building, Excel? I need an Excel class myself, to
And
be
it's
honest.
okay. Well, that's a good point because your boy knows Excel. It's funny. What's funny is that, like, we, even as humans, like, we always have imposter syndrome, and I have this thing of like, sometimes I'm like, I can't teach an Excel class. Everybody knows Excel. Like, that's not going to go anywhere. But then I'm like, well, but then I hear people actually who don't know Excel, or
No,
even
I
with
don't.
Python, I was like,
I was never taught.
right?
I went to the College of Engineering, so they never taught us Excel, PowerPoint,
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
That's
Now
it.
I'm in my master's and I still don't know how to use Excel, and they're teaching us pitch decks, and I'm like, there's intricacies to writing PowerPoints? That's crazy.
Yeah, there's intricacies. See, and that's crazy. Yeah, and information systems, they did teach you Excel. Had a great teacher. But what's interesting is
Mm,
that, yeah, even with Python, I was like, oh, is Python too basic? Like, who needs a beginner's Python course? Like, I'm pretty sure that people know Python, but then, like, you have to remember, like, it's because we're in a bubble, we're in a tech bubble. We
mhm,
forget that there's
mhm,
a whole world of people that don't know anything about any
mhm.
people that don't even know how to use ChatGPT exist still.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
we can't
yeah.
be assuming. I can't sit here and assume that, like, no one needs what I have. But anyway, yeah, I will look into that, like Excel and things of that nature. But to answer your question, yeah, it's Python for right now. We're gonna expand eventually, but I just want to make sure that this Python thing is down pat, and that that I just understand the right model when it comes to teaching, and seeing where this goes, and seeing how to enhance user experience. Because what I would like to build is a system where I don't have to be the one teaching,
Right.
So it could literally just be anybody, plug any teacher in the system, and bam, it prospers. But right now, I'm still, doing a bunch of manual stuff, right? In the startup space, they'll say doing things that don't scale. That's what I'm doing
Mhm.
right now, things that don't scale. So that causes me to, like, have to go kind of one at a time and slowly, but I would love to add other courses too, depending on what people need, because I'm here to teach whatever it is that I've learned. And I love teaching for the sake of, like, I literally have to learn the fundamentals in order to teach it.
Right,
So
right.
it gives me a reason to actually go back and learn. Like, I am not motivated to learn on my own accord, but when someone tells me, "Hey, I need help. Can you help me with something?" That springs me. I don't know what it does, but it springs me into action. And it says, "Okay, David, go learn that. Go learn that. Go learn
Mhm,
that. Go learn that,
mhm.
so that you can help them." So yeah, I'm really motivated by seeing other people in need, and that really helps me to actually take action. Because if people don't need Excel, I ain't teaching it. And I ain't really caring to, like, go into the depths of it. But
Oh, no, people need Excel.
once someone
People
tells me I
need
need help,
Excel.
yeah, I'm done. So now you just said that,
Oh
I'm
my
good.
goodness. I had to do a mail merge. I had
Okay.
never I do
What?
fundraising.
Okay.
Uh-huh. You want to ask a question?
I was gonna ask you, like, were you doing it in PowerPoint or in Excel?
I did it in Excel. I don't even know what I did. I like
Uh-huh.
well, I guess now I have it a little better. But it was like Excel to Word, cuz I mean, I do
Yeah.
fundraising, so we get donations and then I send out letters in mass, like hundreds. And I remember, I think the first time I would individually put like each person's name, each person's address, each person's number. It was
Yeah.
tedious.
That's very tedious.
And then
Yeah.
they asked me, they were like, and this is my first job, my first big girl job. And they asked me, they're like, Addie, what's taking you so long? And I'm like, I'm putting it all in. And they're like, are you doing it by hand, like one by one? And I said, how else am I supposed to do it? They said, oh no, they didn't
That's
teach you
funny.
mail merge. And I was like, what is a mail merge? And they were like, yeah, you need to go on. Yeah, it's really bad. And then we had an
Interesting.
intern because they pick
Uh-huh.
on me. They picked on me because of it. Because it was like one of my first big mistakes, or like my
Mm-hmm.
first big, like, oops, at work.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an intern, and then they asked the intern, I believe she was a sophomore in college, business school actually. And they asked her, they were like, do you know what a mail merge is? And she was like, no. Some of these skill sets that we have are fading out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That is crazy. That is crazy, actually. What's funny is I don't even do, like, no merging and stuff. I wouldn't even I wouldn't even use that for anything anymore. I would use Python, actually. Which is so, like, I use Python for everything.
Ah.
Like, my the campus organization I was a part of, and I still am, BCF, Central Campus Fellowship. They actually
Mhm.
needed me to they needed help with sending out their end of the year tax contribution statement.
Mhm.
And just like you mentioned, there's a bunch of different people, and they each contributed different amounts. So hundreds of people, hundreds of amounts, hundreds of different data points. They needed
Mm,
it to be sent out in a PDF. So they needed an email that had a custom email and an attachment. Did it all in Python in like 20 minutes, sent it
yeah.
out. And my they used to do it using a mail merge, but the person that knew how
Hmm.
to text do that left. So they asked me to do it, and I was like, "Well, I can use Python for this." Did it, sent it out. They said it usually took them weeks to do that. Got it done in literally 20 minutes. So
Crazy.
that's the best thing about Python, man. You can do all what you just said in Python. You don't even have to use Excel anymore because it's Python. You can do everything in Python, but Excel is still useful. I'm not saying don't throw away Excel. I'm just saying that has a max of like 1 million and something records. So after that, you're out of luck. So you have to
Yeah.
use something different. And that's
Yeah.
why, Python and any other big data tools will be very useful. So I do still like Excel for simple things, but Python for like major stuff.
Hmm. And I think that you've said it over and over, but like literally just the tool, like how important it is,
Hmm.
just to be able to help you do the things that you're already doing, just much faster, much
Exactly.
faster.
Exactly.
I was, because I'm really big into leadership, and you're also a leader. But I was just
Right.
talking about how it's going to change leadership and us that are trying to groom ourselves into leadership. We need to have these AI tools down. Like we need to know the
Yeah.
different kind of AI tools as well. I
Right.
use AI to help me edit sometimes. Like there's so many different tools that are helping you. Oh my goodness. Are you familiar with Dan Coe? He talks about the one man business
I'm
all
not
the
familiar.
time.
I'm
Ah,
not familiar.
that's his big concept, the one man business. Now that with AI, and using tools, you could be able to do everything with one person.
Mm,
Um, and that's incredible because I mean, as a leader, as a president, as a CEO, as an executive director, why wouldn't you want to cut costs, you know?
mm. Yep.
That's what your job is.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly. So
incredible.
I agree.
Incredible. So we're coming on our last few questions.
Hmm.
So I want to go back to the key. How does the key help non-technical individuals break into tech, and what sets the key apart from other programs?
Question. So how do we help non-technical people break into tech? Specifically, we teach them the skills needed. So they come on our course or come on our platform. They take a Python course right now, and we teach them Python for 10 weeks, show them the ins and outs in order to get them ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after that, we encourage them to go on their current jobs right now and look at what they could improve using Python. And then from there, I just keep in touch. I say, hey, you told me that at your job right now, you're able to go ahead and use Python to improve this process. Okay, have you done that yet? I checked in after like a couple weeks after the course. I'm like, hey, have you done this yet? You mentioned you're going to do this, right? The accountability is the biggest thing. You need accountability. Like everyone knows that they could be doing something and they could be making progress, but because they have no accountability, they just like, I don't really care. So I can hold you accountable even after the 10 minutes is over, and I see what you've done with your actual job, and then I say, okay, bet you've created this tool for your job. Now go show it to your manager and go tell them
Mm-hmm.
what you did with Python. Because that's exactly what I did at my job, and that got me to be able to become the tech guy. I became the tech guy because I did one cool little thing, right? It goes
Mm-hmm.
back to when I was a kid and I would restart my computer and I'd become the tech guru at my house. And I knew how to restart
Mm-hmm.
a computer. In the same way, you may have done one simple thing at your job. Like you may have done a filter, use Python to filter things out, but your manager used to do that by hand. So because you were able to show him what you just did in Python, you now become the tech guy, and your job changes from a teacher
Mm-hmm.
to the tech lead of the teachers. So
Right.
now you can update your resume with all the stuff that you've done on your job, and you become more marketable as you go and apply for jobs. So that's that.
Right.
So for us, we teach them the skills, and then afterwards, we just watch them at their current job and do what we can to make sure that they have the proper skills added to their resume, the proper experiences added to their resume, and that way they're able to apply for jobs with confidence. So that's our goal right now. Ideally, we would be able to create a pipeline straight from my platform to different employers. But that's a future state thing. In the current phase, we're just seeing what we can do to get land people jobs after taking our course and learning the skills necessary.
Mm.
Also, sorry, your second question was like, what sets us apart? So as it pertains to us versus a Udemy, Coursera, and things of that nature, those online courses, because you're by yourself, you lack accountability. That has led to completion rates of only 3 to 15% for those open courses, right? Now you have that, right? But then you also have a course like, okay, let's say you have a community college, right, where you can take some courses there. Now, not all community colleges offer courses at affordable rates, especially if you're not in the county. So we make sure that our courses are affordable because all we care about, literally all we care about are people's education, them learning. That's all I care about. Them learning and getting a proper job. So if someone is like, hey, I would love to take this course, I just don't have all this money. We offer payment plans. We break it up. However, we're so flexible, you would think we're gymnasts. Like that's how much I care about these people passing. So
Mm.
that's how it pertains to a community college. But then if you compare us to a boot camp, for example, boot camps and additionally, right, boot camps are usually structured in a more like they have a lot more structure and once again the price is very high. You might as well go to college if you're gonna go to a boot camp. But yeah, we make sure that we stay very flexible and very affordable because we want to make sure that those who we're reaching, which are African American job transitioners who do not make that much money oftentimes, are able to afford it. And we know that we're not, when people pay for stuff, they're more likely to take it seriously. But that doesn't mean
Mhm.
a course needs to be $1 million. It just means they need to have some skin in the game, right? So we're not doing it for free because we want to make sure people do take it seriously, but we're not out here trying to like take your money just to make profit. I know it's a business, but I believe that if I focus on value, I will end up getting to the point of profitability, even if it's not specifically from a course per se, but it's from some of the tools that we've created through working on the team.
Yeah. And I think these programs like yours are so important because like what if like we said, IT is so vast that what if I get into it and I realize I don't like this. Now I would have paid so much more money to like get a feel for it. But your program
Exactly.
is like this perfect like toe and 10 weeks is not long
It's
at
not
all
long at all.
to get a good feel for what you offer for Python, and what you will offer in the future. I remember I took an Azure class and it was hundreds of dollars. And I didn't even like how computing. It was
Yeah.
horrible. But had I had like a class like yours, 10 weeks and maybe like a fraction of the cost, I would have known that much quicker and not lost out on such a big investment the way I had.
Exactly. Exactly. And exactly.
Incredible.
And I think that happens a lot in college. See,
Mhm.
a lot of people are falling under the sunk cost fallacy. They're like, "Oh, I majored in tech, so I have to continue in tech. I majored in this, so I have to continue in it." And it's like, well, no, you don't because you already spent the money, but also you don't because you can easily pivot, not easily, but you can pivot to something else. But I know why
Mhm.
people think that they have to stay there because
Mhm.
they're like, bruh, like, how am I supposed to now tell my parents who helped me fund this tuition that I don't want to do this anymore, right?
Yeah.
But that's because you figured out that you didn't like it way too late. But
Yeah.
I dream of a day, and this is the overall goal.
Mhm.
If you ever wondered, I dream of a day where someone just finished high school to go and say, all right, if I want to go and get a job in computer science, I can just apply for a job in computer science and they'll judge me based off of my skills, not whether or not I have a degree, but based
Mhm.
on simply, am I capable of doing this job or not? And I will prove that through my portfolio. I don't
Mm.
have to go to a college just to not be prepared after I graduate and then learn all the skills on the job anyway. Why not just
Mhm.
go straight from one place to learning skills on the job? Or you go from high school, you take a couple courses through YouTube or through the key or whatever, and you just learn what you need for a specific job and like it's literally happening in or trade schools, right? With in like
Hmm.
HVAC and all these other things. So I know it's possible for tech, and I'm not saying everyone needs to do this, but I'm saying for those who can't afford college or those who can't or who think the expenses are way too high compared to the benefits of it, I want them to have an alternative.
Oh, that's so great. I'm even thinking, like, even now, I have friends who they didn't go to college at all. And maybe they have kids, now they have responsibilities, and they cannot do their undergrad. It takes too long. 4 years
Yeah,
is insane. And
yeah,
they're doing Uber Eats and DoorDash back to
yeah,
back. And it's just a horrible, like, it just. They,
yeah.
if they could make more money at a stable position, they absolutely would. And I just love the possibilities that tech, especially through programs like The Key, is able to give us, us people who didn't go to school or people who just have a bit more responsibility within a 10-week program. That's incredible. And not only that, but even the idea generation. And sometimes it's not even necessarily you learn this thing to pivot into tech, but learning how to use tech in your current role. Oh, you're a teacher. How could you create an app for your students, specifically for your students based off of what you know that they're lacking? How could you use this tech and this Python that you're learning to mail merge for fundraising and use it to optimize your own, to even leverage a higher pay? Or maybe you could do like an AI training course or a Python training course off of the information you learned from David in 10 weeks at your job to teach everyone at least the basics and how to do a mail merge through Python, since it sounds like it's easier. Um, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the goal. That's the goal. Like, and even if you want to directly like say like, okay, I don't want to be a teacher and I don't want to do these non-technical jobs. I want to actually break into tech legit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Even if you want
mm-hmm,
to do that, but
mm-hmm.
you're at your current job for now. Yeah, being able to show how valuable these tech skills are and becoming the next tech guy at your job is still very
Yeah,
important. And like you mentioned, could lead to a raise. So
yeah,
that's my goal,
yeah.
just to improve the lives of my people.
Yeah. Thank you so much, David. And I'm coming on my, well, second to last question.
Hmm.
And this one is, if you could tell hmm, a college student who is in their sophomore year, who is currently in data science or IS or IT or computer engineering something, and maybe they're a little nervous, if you could tell them something or give them a piece of advice, what would that be?
That's easy. If I'm giving a piece of advice, what would I tell? I would say help your classmates. Why do I say
Help
that?
your classmates.
Help your
Okay.
classmates. I would say that because for me in undergrad, I was the guy who any class I would take them. If I understood the material in the group, like we have group chats. So we'd all have our
Mhm.
class group chat. I was in there helping students, like assisting them with the stuff. Because number one, it was a way for me to just show up to be a light to them, but
Mhm.
also it was very helpful for my own understanding of the topic. And
Mhm.
and then you benefit because they're like, oh wow, like I can trust this guy to help. Like this guy was very helpful. So when you get to the workforce now, you need a recommendation, you need
Mhm.
a referral, you have a bunch of people that are ready to help you out because you helped them. Right?
Mhm.
Because even the classmates that seems to not know something in a specific subject still ends up getting a job at Google.
Yeah.
So you may need a
Yeah.
job at Google later on in the future, and you can reach
Yeah.
out to them and help them. So I would say focus more on the human aspect rather than not that you have to like choose one or the other, but if you wanted to like put a focus area on it, I would say focus a lot on the human aspect of relationship building rather than just the
Mm.
technology building. Because relationship building leads you to the opportunity where you could actually start to like do like the coolest projects. Because for example, if you have a friend at Google, you get to have an interview at Google, then you get to work on the latest technology that Google has to offer because
Yeah.
you were able to get in due to a referral. So I highly recommend help your classmates. Help your classmates. Do not be selfish. This is the time to build connections and build relationships.
That was perfect. That was perfect. That was perfect. Thank you so much, David.
Of course. Thank you.
And very last question. Was there any questions that you expected me to ask that I didn't ask, or any questions that you were prepared for?
No, honestly, I could just ask anything. Like yeah, no specific
All right.
questions.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, David. How can we find the key? How could we enroll? How do we keep up with updates from the key?
So you can go to thekeyplatform.co. We'll change that eventually. But for right now, thekeyplatform.co. You could also just connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't know if you could you could probably add me on LinkedIn. I don't
I
know.
will.
But yeah, you can connect me on LinkedIn and chat with me. If you have any questions, ask me. Or get in the text, just let me know. I have my Calendly on my website, so you can feel free to book a time with me too. And just chat about whatever, man. I'm always here to help. So yeah, that's how you would do that.
All right. Thank you, David, for coming at the table. It was great talking to you. Thank
Yes,
you.
it was great talking with you as well. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And three,
How was that? Wasn't that so good? Yeah, it was incredible. Actually, I keep saying each next episode is my favorite episode, but these guests just keep getting better and better and better. And I can't just help but thank you guys as well for the continued support. Please, if the key sounds like a program that is right for you, please go and contact David, figure out how to get connected. I will have the information in the bio below. And also please be sure to follow David, see what else he's up to, see if he does start those Excel programs or those resume building programs. And on the other side, be sure to follow us. We will continue to have great guests on this podcast, and be sure to follow us. Please rate us. It really helps us. What else? Is there anything else? I don't think so. Well, one more thing, of course. Pray all the time and laugh really loud. Goodbye.